Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So it's Friday, and yesterday we have Bartok the Leaper, and he just kind of every time I see him, he kind of it makes me chuckle. I think it stems back to the fact in maybe it was Ultimate Spider-Man, one of the episodes he's in it, and they just kind of make him like kind of a joke. It's just a funny scene. That's what it makes me think of every time I see him. I mean, I was amazed that, he got his own stamp in the stamp series. I mean, crazy. But he did. And then for Friday, today, it's Black Knight. And they just pretty much go over a little bit of his origin, saying since the reign of King Arthur, his family has wielded the mythical ebony blade. And when his uncle was wielding it and basically um, turned to a life of crime, Dane Whitman took up the ebony blade and trying to atone for his uncle's crimes that he did while he was the Black Knight, because his uncle, like, in his last dying breath kind of thing, just wanted his nephew to basically atone for his sins by taking up the mantle himself and, making their family proud. So for the stamp we have today is Mole Man, which, let's see, this says you can find this stamp in Daredevil number 16116, December 74. Also appears in Amazing Spider-Man number 136, September of 74, and Kazar number 12, November of 75. And this picture is from Marvel Team Up number 17, January of 74. Art by Gil Kane. So pretty much they just left it the same, just changed the angle a little bit. So, yeah. He pretty much he's a nuclear engineer. He's brilliant, but he was always mocked by his colleagues for his appearance and his, kind of crackpot theories about like the hollow earth. Basically, there's a whole world that exists like at the center of the earth, journey to the center of the earth. That basically kind of sums up his theory, his what he believes in. So, and one of the times when he was exploring, he fell like through the earth into this huge cave, and this was on pretty much on Monster Isle, and he he wears those glasses because he gazed upon a highly reflective diamond surface, and it partially blinded him. So that's why he always wears the glasses. And he started exploring under there, kind of figured, well, I'm never going to get out of here, so I might as well just, go with it. So he called himself Mole Man, and he ran across these moloids, as he called them, and they were created by the Deviants, and the Deviants were created by the Celestials, Deviants and Eternals created by the Celestials. Anyway, so the Deviants created these, and they kind of shared with him, the technology that was left behind by the Deviants. And, being a nuclear engineer, he could contribute to that technology, can kind of make it a little bit better. So he mastered it. So his first appearance was in Fantastic Four #1, who's the first villain they faced. So it makes sense that he's going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie, considering they're going with a, it's not the comic book world per se, obviously, because as I talked about when Silver Surfer had a stamp, was that just those? Yeah, Electro was the last video, and then Silver Surfer. How that they're having Shala Bal as Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Rad. So anyway, so obviously that's not the MCU, or the movie is not Earth 616, and it's not the MCU, so they're going with like a 60s vibe. So it makes sense that they would have Mole Man be, you know, the one of the bad guys in the movie. Um, but so his first appearance was he attacked a bunch of nuclear power plants and attracted the attention of the newly formed Fantastic Four. And of course, they beat him. I mean, because he's a bad guy, and bad guys rarely ever win. And even if they do win, eventually they get beat. His next adventure kind of was him teaming up with Red Ghost. I talked about him. He's like a Soviet scientist who had the apes. Yeah, so they teamed up together, and they were going to basically kind of make the earth bend to its will, or their will, through earthquakes. And ants were actually the first to sense like what they were doing in the earthquake tremors. So they went to Goliath at the time. He wasn't going by Ant-Man at that time. And told him about it, and he shrunk all, to really small size, obviously, and ruined the machine so that, their plan failed. He was one of the villains that Dr. Doom mind controlled and sent to ruin, Reed and Sue's wedding day. So he spends a lot of time like underground. He's pretty happy underground. There are times when he comes up to the surface and he, tries to rule the world, rule the surface world. But for the most part, he's pretty happy, like being underground, existing like underground, ruling his kingdom, and all the tunnels and all that stuff. So there's a couple rulers that are also underground. It's like Subterranea is the earth that's underneath the earth. So Tyrannus is one of those, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about him before because he was around during the Merlin King Arthur time, which, as we just saw with Black Knight, there was a Black Knight during that time. And also, I'm pretty sure I talked about him when I talked about Captain Britain. Anyway, he is a person who pretends to be a sorcerer, or if you didn't know who he was, you would think he was a sorcerer. But really, he's a scientist, and he's so proficient, and his technology is like so far ahead of everything else that it seems like he's a sorcerer, because like how can he do these things, that sort of thing. He tried to take over, of course, Britain, but he was banished to Subterranea. He actually, when he was down there, found the Fountain of Youth, and that's why he's been able to exist all these centuries. So he's the ruler of part of Subterranea. And then there's this other girl named Kala. She's the ruler of another part of Subterranea, ruler of the Netherworld. So Kala pretended to like Mole Man so she could kind of basically get rid of him. And Mole Man just happened to have Tyrannus in his dungeon at the time, because both being rulers of, the earth underneath the earth, they clashed because they wanted to be the only one. So he had Tyrannus in his dungeon. So Kala actually fell in love with Tyrannus, and she freed him. And then Tyrannus betrayed her and threw her in his dungeon because he didn't want to share, he didn't want to share his kingdom. He wanted to rule by himself. He didn't want anyone else to have that power. So, yeah. Oh, and there was this one time when Mole Man actually befriended the Thing, and he was going to create his own new continent, but it was at the expense of California being, sunk into the ocean. So that, of course, didn't work, and of course he was defeated by the Fantastic Four. Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, poor villains. They never get pretty much a happy ending. And then there was another warlord type person who's in Subterranea. Like, his name's, I think, Grotesque. So Grotesque, Tyrannus, and, Mala aligned, allied themselves, and they fought against the Brutus, who was leader of the Deviants. And Hulk actually helped them defeat Brutus and the Deviants. So, and, oh, hey Dazzler, are you going to jump up on the table? Yep, good job. Oh, hi. You haven't been in a video in a really long time. Yeah. Are you going to go lay in your tray? Are you going to go lay in your tray? No? Maybe? Anyway, where was I? I don't remember. I think I was going to talk about Monster Isle, because I mentioned it earlier. That's kind of the place that he was exploring when he fell through and discovered Subterranea. So Monster Isle, that's kind of his, his realm. He's usually like underneath and stuff. I mean, when he, like, the first time he was defeated by the Fantastic Four, I'm pretty sure I remember, like, or one of the times, Human Torch, like, sealed the entrances and exits to his realm, so he had to stay underground. And Iron Man did the same thing when he, faced them when he was trying to, gain power in the world by triggering earthquakes. So, anyway, yeah, Monster Isle is kind of like his home base, and he actually allowed Adam Warlock and his like Infinity Squadron to use it as their home base as well, because he thought, well, surely that can't hurt because I'm mostly going to be like underground and stuff, and ruling my kingdom, and if they're there, then they can save me from anyone that comes to attack Monster Isle and attack me. And it actually did work for a while. I mean, and he tried to create a sanctuary there for anyone that, was disregarded by society and felt like they didn't fit in. Unfortunately, it was a disaster. I mean, most people died the first time he tried it. Yeah, not good. Dazzler, what are you eating? I don't know what she's eating, but it can't be anything. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she's just licking something because there's nothing on the table. So she's just weird. I don't know. Anyway, so, and actually the UN did come to Monster Isle to basically claim it kind of for themselves and say, hey, like, you can't have this basically nation, because, he was ruler of Monster Isle, and they're like, yeah, you can't do that. And eventually they basically let him. And there's the Moloids, like I said, there's the I think there's a group of like kind of super powered beings called Outcast, and then there's all these monsters, obviously. Well, obviously it's called Monster Isle. It's like, duh. I mean, he pretty much, like I said, stays under his, stays within his realm unless he feels like that his people or his realm is under attack. And at some point, the Moloids' food and water was poisoned, so he went up to New York and attacked it because, in retribution for their... She is in her tray. I don't know what she was licking, but she's done now. So I guess it's nothing bad. So he went up to New York and attacked New York because in retribution for, their food and water being destroyed. So let's see. Oh, yeah. And when we talked about Sakaar the other day with Silver Surfer, because Silver Surfer, he brought them all off the planet and back to Earth. And so they actually kind of ended up in Mole Man's tunnels for whatever reason. I can't remember exactly why. And he actually managed to tame them. So, of course, what did they do? They attacked New York, of course. But really, they were just kind of waiting for Scar to come because he's their leader, Hulk's son. And so when he came, then Mole Man and Tyrannus and everyone else, like the subterranean people, were like, okay, well, that's it. I'm out. See ya. Oh, and I did when I talked about the Mandarin. I talked about how at one point he lost all of his rings, and more. They sought out people who wanted revenge against Iron Man, Tony Stark, and so one of the rings found Mole Man, and he was actually the last ring bearer standing, so to speak, and really he could have had all the rings, but he rejected the ring and then just retreated back to, back below to his kingdom. So, and there was this interesting bit about Squirrel Girl, how her pets, her friends, set her up on with this online dating profile, and somehow she and Mole Man matched, or like he messaged her, whatever. And so he spent all this time trying to get her to go out with him, and like causing all this chaos. Like, if you don't go out with me, I'll, cave in New York or whatever. Crazy stuff like that. So and of course she rejected him. She's like, no, I'm not doing that. That's just no. But in the meantime, she found out that one of the monsters that resided on Monster Isle, she she found out that this monster, like, that has three heads, I can't remember the name, something to do with three, was in love with Mole Man, and so Squirrel Girl let this monster defeat her so that the monster could win Mole Man's favor. So once they defeated Squirrel Girl, they left and went back, back to their kingdom. It was a weird story. I mean, pretty much most stories involving Squirrel Girl are a little out there, because that's just kind of the kind of character she is. She was purposely made because the creator, and I forget who it was now, I'm drawing a blank. He was tired of these really dark, kind of depressing, like, oh my gosh, end of the world stories, and he wanted to do something just fun and light, so he created Squirrel Girl, and that's why most of her stories are just kind of like off the wall and out there. So, let's see. Oh, during also the Secret Empire, storyline, Mole Man agreed to let Captain America use his tunnels because they went, everywhere. Like, you could get anywhere using his tunnels without being detected. He agreed to let him use his tunnels for stuff from the surface world, like DVDs and stuff, which is kind of funny. But unfortunately, letting Captain America use his tunnels brought Hydra down on him. And even though they were able to defeat Hydra, the partnership was over. He's like, nope, that's it. I'm done. You're bringing Hydra and other bad guys into my realm. This partnership is not going to work, which I get that. He was just trying to keep his people and his home safe, and also get some entertainment, because obviously nothing's down there. So yeah. Just an interesting character. Kind of another goofy character. I mean, just by looking at him, you're like, okay. You have to admit, he's a little bit goofy. Just like Bartok the Leaper, but in a different way, because Bartok is not necessarily goofy looking, but they've made him out to be a little bit goofy, especially in the more recent years with other media. Not necessarily comics, but definitely other media, for sure. Yeah, so Dazzler's sleeping in her tray. Like I said, it's been a long time since she joined us for a video, so I'm glad she did. At one point, she jumped in that window, so that must mean the kitties came back, because Longshot and the orange fluffy kitty visited me earlier today, so there must be more kitties out there. So I'm gonna go look, and I will see you guys next time, Sunday. So until then, bye.